Emergency procedure, Wikipedia audio. An emergency is a serious, unexpected, often dangerous situation that requires immediate action. The emergency procedure is a plan of actions to be conducted in a certain order or manner, in response to an emergency event. Organizations are frequently required to have written emergency procedures in place to comply with statutory requirements, demands from their insurers, their regulatory agency, shareholders, stakeholders, and unions, to protect staff, the public, the environment, the business, their property, and their reputation. Before preparing a procedure, it may be appropriate to carry out a risk assessment, estimating how likely it is for an emergency event to occur and if it does, how serious or damaging the consequences would be. The emergency procedure should provide an appropriate and proportionate response to this situation. Need for emergency procedures. A risk assessment is usually in the style of a table. This table rates a risk on its likelihood and severity using the numbers 1 to 10. These numbers are usually multiplied then to give the final number quoted for a given risk. An emergency procedure identifies the responsibilities, actions, and resources necessary to deal with an emergency. Once drafted, a procedure may require a consultative period with those who could be involved or affected by the emergency, and a program set out for testing, training, and periodic review. Procedure carried out during a fire alarm in commercial buildings where the occupants are evacuated via the nearest exit as the emergency services are called. Fire wardens or security may search the building to ensure everyone has left, or there may be a roll call at the assembly point. The procedure would identify who is responsible for these various tasks, and their deputies, detailing other arrangements such as assisting those in the building who may have mobility issues, liaison with the firefighters, etc. In large multi-tenanted buildings, the procedure may be complex and address several possible scenarios. Medical emergency, where first aiders are called to attend an unconscious person and after checking their airways and general condition, put them into a recover position whilst awaiting the paramedic. Written guidance on aircraft which indicate the steps to be undertaken by the crew to give the best chance for a successful recovery or with the least loss of life. When an emergency procedure is revised and reissued, previous versions must be withdrawn from point of use to avoid confusion. For the same reason, a revision numbering system and a schedule of amendments are frequently used with procedures to reduce the potential for errors and misunderstandings. The document itself may be just a few lines, perhaps using bullet points, flow charts, or it may be a detailed set of instructions and diagrams, dependent on the complexity of the situation and the capabilities of those responsible for implementing the procedure during the emergency. Business continuity planning may also feed off of the emergency procedures, enabling an organization to identify points of vulnerability and minimize the risk to the business by preparing backup plans and improving resilience. The act of producing the procedures may also highlight failings in current arrangements that, if corrected, could reduce the risk levels. Even with a well-documented and well-practiced procedure using trained staff, there is still the potential for events to spiral out of control, often due to unpredicted scenarios or a coincidence of events. There are many well-documented examples of this, such as 3 Mile Island accident, the Chernobyl disaster, and the Deepwater Horizon drilling platform explosion in April 2010. In a press release by BP on September 8, 2010, BP's outgoing chief executive Tony Hayward said of this, "The investigation report provides critical new information on the causes of this terrible accident. It is evident that a series of complex events, rather than a single mistake or failure, led to the tragedy. It is common practice with emergency procedures to have review processes where the lessons learned from previous emergencies, changing circumstances, changes in personnel, contact details, etc. can be incorporated into the latest version of the documentation. Fire, active shooter, electrical failure, bomb threat, suspicious package, civil disorder, national emergency, gas leak, flood, hurricane, tornado, medical emergency, chemical spillage or release, elevator/lift entrapment. Some typical emergency procedure are: other potential emergencies that may affect the business activity of an organization are: risk assessment. Governments often have websites giving advice on emergencies at both a personal and national level. UK examples: UK government advice on dealing with emergencies, UK government advice for fire safety in the home, emergency evacuation plan. Testing and training. Controlled issue of procedures. Style and complexity. Business continuity planning. Escalating situations. Review process. Examples of emergency procedures in common use.